Hi, good morning. Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm your co-host, Bonni Snyder. As you can see, this is not Tammy. Tammy's not with us today. She's, kind of taking the day off, or not taking the day off. An unexpected taking the day off is kind of what it is. Tammy White, of course, the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, and I'm its CEO. Our co-host. Again, she's not here today. But I'm sure my phone will be like blowing up saying, hey, how's everything going? But I'm excited to have a guest in studio with me today, and we'll get to our guests here in just a second. Before we begin, of course, we have to take the opportunity to thank Rob and John, it's like we forget the boss, here at Area 52 Media Group for allowing us to bring this information to you, for giving us this platform. And so without further ado, like I said, I'm really, really super excited about the guests that we have in studio with us today. And that will become apparent as, we delve into the conversation. But I want to introduce Laura Smith Butler. Who, and as we get into this conversation, Laura, I think our audience will learn quickly, where is the excitement coming from, and, a little story about us, Yeah. So, why don't we start with, Laura, how do we know each other? This is I think it's like a funny, cutesy,
just
kind
a
of
couple
story.
months ago, we were in high school together. Not really, but yeah. We actually went to high school together back eons ago.
Eons ago, yes. So, what's funny is, Laura and I, both grew up, in New Jersey, in Jackson, and, went to the same high school. And I don't know that we necessarily hung out a lot when we were in school. I think we knew each other.
We were more acquaintance than close friends.
Exactly. And so one day I happened to be on my social media post, and, there's a page, it's, Jackson Memorial Alumni, page, and I think it's, it's our graduating class. And, of course, through that, we all started friending each other. And this is when I realized that you lived here in Florida. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Actually, I befriended you.
You did.
You sent me wait, how do you know me?
That's right. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, I have this quirky thing whenever I, unless I'm standing right next to a person, when someone sends me a friend's request, I'll put, I always check the legitimacy of a friend's request. How do I know you?
Make sure we're not being hacked.
Exactly. And so Laura's like, we only went to high school together. And I was like, gotcha, you're accepted. And then I realized that you lived, here in Florida.
Not only in Florida, 20 minutes apart.
20 minutes away from each other. Exactly. And so, we made this date to meet. And I remember the picture we took. Because I didn't have, if I thought about it, I popped it up. But I remember the picture that we took, at your house by the pool, and it was and just think, do I want to say the number? 41 years ago, we were walking across the stage, graduating, and here we are. We haven't seen each other in that long. But we also share some other things. And again, I thank you for, agreeing, to come on the show. This is kind of a last minute ask. So I really appreciate that.
Anything for you, though. We do have that bond.
Love you the same. So, part of what we talk about here on the show is, one's journey through grief and loss, and, how is it that we bounce back, if there's a such thing as bouncing back from tragedies, and a highlight on how everybody's journey is a little different. That being said, interestingly, we have some commonalities, and
I wish we didn't on some of them, but yes.
Yeah, it's a club that nobody wants to be in. And, of course, I think you knew before me how many of our friends from school, when I think of our girlfriends from school, that how many of us are in that club of parents who, yes, we have that. We've graduated together, we were parents, and
It is.
several of us lost our children.
To me, it's when it happens, I think we all feel so alone. Like, you don't know how you're going to make it through the grieving process. And when it's the loss of a child, somebody that came out of your body, not to say it's not as hard on a father, because it's still it's the closest blood you have. You just don't know what's going to come. And you do have this thing of feeling alone. And yes, some of our classmates reached out very quickly to say to me, no, unfortunately, you're not alone. And that was some of the most heartwarming, more supportive than somebody just like giving their condolences. Because when you realize that definitely you're not alone in the group. No, it's not something that any of us want a membership in. But yeah, it's stunning. And then even after you've lost a child, to realize when somebody else does and you try to be that supportive person.
Yeah, and I was, I'm right there with you. Like, several people, I should say people, several of our classmates that, reached out to me. And then, when you and I were talking, it was like, oh, did you know that this person also lost their, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that.
And all for different reasons.
Exactly.
I mean, we've had car accidents, we've had illnesses, we've had drug overdoses or suicides. I actually even have another family member now who just had her son murdered. And so, I mean, the reasoning of why it's happened is not what's important. It's that we're all in the same group.
Exactly. So with that, your first loss was, it's beautiful, beautiful girl, your daughter Brooke. So I think what I want to ask first is, talk to us a little bit about Brooke. Like, what, if you could let our audience know, who was Brooke?
Brooke, of course, I think she was my precious, precious daughter. But she was so much more than that. She was a mother. She was a daughter. She was a true friend and confidant to her brother. She was. She lived a very natural, organic life. The last person that you would think would get sick, she didn't drink, she didn't smoke, she did exercise every day, she did yoga, she was vegan, she was vegetarian. I mean, she led the healthy lifestyles, and she walked the walk that she preached. Down to the point of not using microwaves or nothing like that in the house. Everything was natural, and she looked like the picture of health until she got sick. And then quickly, cancer attacked her. And it was a shock. She had just gotten married, thought she was planning her future, and she got sick on the last day of her honeymoon. And didn't make a 6-month wedding anniversary. So it was like the happy times went tragic so fast.
And 6 months after her wedding.
She never made a 6-month. She got married June 22nd, died December 7th.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So what kind of cancer was it, if you don't mind sharing?
She was diagnosed with colon cancer. She was stage 4 already when she was diagnosed. It moved very quickly, attacked very quickly. It had metastasized to her liver and to her abdomen. And they feel eventually, even though nobody did run tests at the end, but they figured by the end it hit her bones, her brain, everything. And literally, my beautiful daughter went to, I couldn't even recognize her within weeks. And
so, looking at, here, this vibrant, beautiful person, that was your daughter, and then suddenly seeing, or learning the diagnosis of cancer, and then watching what it did to her. How did you get through, being, her caregiver, being mom, as a mom watching your child go through something like that? How did you deal with that?
You just do it. I think you're almost numb. You're in the back of your mind knowing what's coming, but not wanting to admit it in the front. So you're like looking at grasping straws to anything. Oh, they say this can help. You do it. At that point, I think if somebody told you, oh, if you go outside and eat dirt, it's going to take care of it, you will, because you're looking for any strain of hope. I had my, I can tell you there is something that is, because you and I have had this talk with you losing your son. I got the chance to talk about stupid grievances her and I had that didn't seem nothing seemed important at that point, and you could talk so honestly. We've had this conversation. I don't know which is easier or harder. Knowing what's coming, but being able to say your piece and say the things that maybe you would have never said, having the conversations that you definitely probably wouldn't have had. There's an honesty that comes out, whether it's something like you didn't even know it bothered her. Okay, there were things she said to me that I was like, really? But honey, I'm so sorry if it made you feel that way, which I had that opportunity to have those talks. Whereas with Patrick, it was so quick that you didn't get those opportunities to maybe say, hey, that's always bugged me, or whatever. But, I love you anyway.
Right.
I had all that, but I had to, on the other hand, watch her wither away and suffer. So I don't know which is better. It's probably harder on me in some ways and easier for me in some ways.
Gotcha.
It's a weird combination.
It's interesting. I don't think I've ever had anybody do a comparison like that before in terms of how we lose a loved one. And in your case, you're dealing with Brooke's illness, and knowing that I only have this much time before she's going to be gone, versus when I think of Patrick's illness, and not knowing, I had no, there was always that potential that things could go south, but my brain had never in a million years processed, and we'll get to when I lost him, and that next journey that you and I were on together, with this. Never in a million years would I thought that he was gone. So I found it, as you were talking, that you and Brooke were able to have these conversations in which, all right, so let me clear the air, clear my chest, let me get these off so that nothing is left unsaid. But hearing you say that, is there anything that you feel is unsaid?
Of course. Because at the time, it's just as things come up as her and I could be watching television, laying in her bed, and, and it would say, like, oh, yeah, that reminds me, Mom, of remember the time you and I did this? I was so angry with you that day. And so it might not have come up if we weren't sitting there. Afterwards, there's always still regrets or things like my daughter opted not to go. When they gave her the options of treatment, they weren't giving her any options of a cure. They offered her to go through chemo that it might buy her an extra month. My daughter opted not to do chemo. She felt for the little bit of time when they were giving her 3 months to live, and you might buy a month extra. She was, Mom, I'm sick enough. I'm not going to be even more sick. They're not giving me like this can cure me. I'm not going to do it. Now, as a mother, now do you go, God, maybe I should have talked her into it. Maybe I should have, not that I know my daughter was pretty strong-minded when it came to stuff. So I couldn't have really talked her into it. And I know that in my heart. That doesn't mean that now I don't have that regret of trying to find maybe some off-the-wall cure somewhere that gave her this much of a chance, or maybe talking her into the chemo, even though I know I couldn't have. So I think there's always a regret thing. Why didn't I do this, or why didn't I try to do that? Even though she was an adult. I couldn't make those decisions for her. It's not like I could tie her to a bed and take a chemo port. It was still going to be her decision, and her decision I had to honor at the time. And I still have to honor what her choices were.
Right, and that's good. That was, my follow-up question to that is, has there been a need, or is there still a need of reconciling yourself where, you almost want to say, darn it, daughter, just please do this. If nothing else, you're going to give us another month with you. But then it's.
You know what? When it came to at that time, I couldn't. She was suffering, so I couldn't see another month of suffering.
Gotcha.
Not that I wanted to see her go, by any means. But I was grateful for little things like taking her to the beach for the day. We weren't there long. She couldn't take it long. She was exhausted fast. But, I was grateful for that little bit of time that we were able to have mother-daughter.
Gotcha.
Would I have wished, though, would another month have brought me more of that? Probably not.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's interesting. I mean, I admire, your strength and resolve.
Like we have a choice.
like we do. But the nice thing about it is, and I kind of want to fast forward. When you and I got together that first time when we realized that, like, wait a minute, we live 20 minutes away from each other and we're just figuring this out. We were getting ready. This was on the heels of our class reunion. And I remember...
it was before the class reunion.
Yeah, right before the class reunion. I remember us talking, about, hey, are you going to the class reunion? And, you said, I would love to, but I can't because you were going on a trip.
For Brooke.
For Brooke, yes. And, and I was like, I'm thinking, I'm going to, miss you miss seeing you at the reunion, but I understand I know about the trips. Can you talk a little bit about this trip you took for Brooke?
Well, that goes into my other child, who planned to fulfill my daughter's bucket list. When she was sick, she had her regrets. I mean, she was a young mom. She was a responsible mom. So as she was still working, going to school, a single mom, taking care of her son, she did put away her own aspirations of traveling and so forth. So when she was, I don't want to say when she was sick, I'd rather not say on her deathbed, but her and my son had some great talks about all the things she wished she had done, either with her son and just taking the time, but the things that, because she was doing school and doing the responsible mom thing and working and so forth, she never got the time. So my son planned this glorious trip with her ashes, and he took her to all her bucket list places in the United States. He did the Redwood Forest with her. He did Joshua Tree. He did Yellowstone. He did Yosemite. He just took her everywhere, and she wanted her ashes spread in the Grand Canyon. And so my son started out this trip, and taking her everywhere. He took like 3 weeks of travel to travel everywhere. And then my grandson and I, her son, flew out to Arizona. We hiked Sedona for her, that she always wanted to hike. My daughter was very much into the stones and the crystals, and, like I said, she was definitely the earth child. And so we spent the day hiking for her, and the next 2 days we did the Grand Canyon and spread her ashes throughout the canyon. Which, no, we didn't ask for a permit, so let's not get into the legal issues of that. We just kind of did it. But she is where she wanted to be, and my fantastic son planned it all and fulfilled her wishes.
And that's something, because he was young. Your son is younger, right?
Yes.
Brooke was first, and your son was
6 years younger.
Yeah. So how's he doing? I mean, how is he dealing with, when I think of people who become only children, not by choice.
Well, I like the way you say only children, because I always said I had 2 only children, only because they were 6 years difference in age, and she always mothered them.
Gotcha.
She was always his confidant. She was always his protector. And that was why I think when she passed, he made sure he took care of his protector, that he fulfilled her wishes. It was very hard on him.
Okay.
They were extremely close. I couldn't have asked for more from my children.
And how's he doing now?
He does not, he brings her up, he does, but he doesn't probably talk about her as much as I do.
Gotcha.
But he, not by choice like any of us, but he's dealt with it, not to say that means he doesn't have a day that, or see something and think of her and go, oh, I wish she was here, but none of us have a choice. Unfortunately, life goes on.
And speaking of life going on, you mentioned, that Brooke has, you have your grandson. Rob, if you could, the last picture that you had up, can you pop that one back up for a sec? So that's you and Brooke and her son.
Gasparilla.
And he now lives with you.
Yes, he does.
Tell us a little bit about Matt.
Matt is a very, very pure soul. You've met him.
That he is.
He tells everything like it is. There's no shades of gray with him. It's black and white, you know. When I say he's the most honest person you've met, if he thinks that, like, we're at the grocery store and he thinks they didn't scan something, ma'am, I think you're putting that in the bag. Did you scan that? You know, he's that honest.
Nice.
I don't care if it's a pack of gum. He's that honest. You can't ask him to lie because he'll look at you like, you know. And I'll go, Matt, it was a fib. You know, I said you were a year younger so I could get you into the movies a little cheaper. No. That's stealing. You know, he's very, you know.
He is a sweetheart.
He is.
He is an absolute sweetheart.
Matthew is autistic. My daughter did a fantastic job raising him. He is his mother through and through. And I always say she left me her most prized possession. And so, yes, Matthew is with me, and I love him to death.
And we talk about, our commonalities. So here, we both grew up in Jackson. We graduated high school together. We, lost, our children, like you, your oldest, me, my youngest. And, not because we want, and I hate to put, I don't want to put it this way, like we didn't want to, because it's kind of like, it becomes I want to do this because I have to do this, but, more of a have to. We are each raising, our children's children. We've become parents all over again with the fall.
Gladly.
But,
because...
and I mean, that's what they would want. And I remember, before, Pat left, and with you, when you can't say Brooke was on her deathbed, I still can't say the D word or the P, the words that begin with PA, when I'm speaking of Patrick. But I remember before Patrick left, he had said, if something were to happen to me, who is going to take care of Devin? And he was like, will you? And I think we were having a little bit of a tiff then. And I was like, well, you guys live in my house, of course. If something happens to you, think I'm kicking Devin out of the house now. The other thing, though, and I want to talk about somebody else here as well, because unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Brooke. But I feel, through our friendship, and closeness and whatnot, that I know her, even though I never, physically met her. I know Matt, when I met your son. But I remember the first time I was coming to your house, I was like, what are we going to do? I was like, we're just going to hang out and, just going to chill, have a few drinks and
barbecue.
And barbecue. But you had, there was a special person that was in your life that it was, I'm choking up now.
My very best friend.
Yeah, Gene, your husband Gene. I remember, it was, come on over. Gene says we don't have to do anything. We can sit by the pool and drink, and he's going to cook, and he's going to, And I got to meet Gene that day, and very much so. He cooked for us. He waited on us hand and foot.
Cabana boy, yes. But he knew we were reconnecting, and he wanted to make it as comfortable as possible. But that was, like I said, that was my best friend in life. I could never ask for a better person in my life, a more supportive in every way. My honey. And of course, I lost him a year ago.
Yes.
And who came to my rescue? When I was especially shuttled and didn't even know where to start because he wanted taps played. He was an Army veteran.
He was.
And who else did I call that could help me get through the Army red tape or whatever? Who do I call? How do I do this? Then my other loyal service person.
Oh, stop it.
No. Little did you know that first connection was that you both had also served in the Army.
I remember, him, that first day, we're sitting, we're chit-chatting, and, he would come out and hang out with us for a bit, and then, it was, he was very much like, I'm going to just be Cabana Boy and
Yeah, that's what I said.
let you guys, so we looked and he was, would go back in the house and watch, I think it was sports or something I was watching on TV. And then I think I will forever be blessed, honored, before we lost him, when I came to visit. And you let me see him, when he was in the room. And, it's one of those things where I will swear, it's like,
you
hi,
came
Jean.
for me. No,
Yeah,
you
I did
showed
come,
up again.
Yeah, I was like, hi, Jean. And, it was almost like, I felt like he knew I was there, because it was kind of like, okay, hi, and then it wasn't too long after that he was gone.
I think he passed the next day.
It was quick. I remember it was quick after that visit. But let's start with, how did you meet Jean? I mean, he was, guys, she's not lying. He was the, it's like, there should be more Jeans in the world.
Jean, Jean and I met through work. And actually, at first, we had been friends through work for a long time. That actually, the first time him and I actually went out seriously, we were first hanging just as friends. We had were both going through divorce. Actually, I might have already been divorced, but we had been friends for years before that. And when we started seeing each other, it really, I don't know if either one of us knew we were seeing each other at first, or if it was just friends hanging out. And then I remember the first time him and I were together, sleeping, that we had slept together, I thought, like, I really screwed up a great friendship here. I was afraid to go into work the next day.
Right.
Thinking, like, what did you just do?
Right.
And then he walked in the office whistling, and we had been together ever since.
Wow.
He was definitely my rock. One of the differences between losing Brooke and losing him was I lost Brooke and I had him to hold me and tell me it was going to be all right. That it was going to be hard, but it was going to be all right. I didn't have anybody to do that when I lost him. It was, I always said for him, he was my second husband. I was actually his third wife. It took him to the three times was a charm. For me, the second time was a charm. My last 25 years we were together were fantastic. I couldn't have ever dreamt of anything better.
No,
anything.
And like I said, having met him and gotten to know him, in the capacity that I got to know him, you are right. He could not have asked, for anything better. And it was cancer, like with
Yes.
Brooke, that took Jean.
And Jean, cancer and yeah. Jean had 3 bouts of cancer. My daughter had 1. First one just took her. She was just very aggressive. Jean had been clear of cancer for over 11 years after the first time he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Had been clear, and then it came back, and it got in his bloodstream when it came back. And it attacked his lungs at that point, were the most severe. But he had been a smoker. He had asthma, or COPD, and once it's in the bloodstream, sooner or later, it hit his bladder, it hit, So, yeah, and I think part of his was all the treatments for on and off through all that time, because it was giving him like a form of dementia that I could see was always worse after treatments, always. Whether or not they feel it was from the cancer or from age, I don't know. In my heart, I feel like the treatments had a lot to do with it. There was no other way we wouldn't have not done treatment. There was, so to me, it's not like I can go, oh my God, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that. No, we had to do that.
Yeah, and then I remember, through that journey, COVID hit, and there was, times where it's like, let's get together, and it's like, yeah, we can't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, so much because we didn't want to, but it was, our concern was not exposing, him
to anything because his resistance was so low.
Right.
It was gone. It was gone.
And so, I know that, as I think about it, that was, I found that COVID, or that time when we all were in isolation, was a difficult part for a lot of people, because a lot of us became so isolated in terms of, I don't want, like, hey, I want to come visit, but I know I can't come visit because my desire to come hang out with you and Jean, or protecting Jean's health far outweighed the desire for us to get together. And
he wasn't always worried about it as much as we were.
Exactly.
Because
if he had hit it his way, it would have been like, darn it, come on over, I'm fine. You can come over. It's good. It's you. It's okay.
Well, to give you an example, like we would go to the cancer center, and of course through COVID, and you're dealing with all the patients have been through treatments or going through them, and everybody's resistance from chemo or whatever is gone. So nobody's got this great resistance. And I remember, not only were we mask gloved, hand sanitized a million times walking in the door. Here it is, I had a husband that was suffering the confusion of dementia, and I remember having to get special clearances to go in with them, and I'm like, fine, you want him to go in by himself? He's going to wander, you're never going to find him in 5 minutes, and you're not going to know where he went. You don't want me, oh, by the way, if you have to ask him anything, he's not going to answer you. Ask him what he had for breakfast this morning, at this point. So, no, I need to be in there. And I remember even at hospital visits having that problem. They only wanted you to go. Now, they don't want, and yet I'm supposed to open my house and go, yeah, anybody, come on in.
Right.
They don't want his wife in a emergency room, but sure, come on in. I don't. Oh, did you hand sanitize before you got here? Oh, you have a cough? What's that from? We were all so afraid of catching COVID. Really, we were. No less giving it to somebody who's got no resistance.
Exactly.
We knew that would have done him in.
It is, and I mean, like I said, it was, like I said, I was glad, blessed, we were fortunate that restrictions eased up, and it's like, okay, please come over.
Yeah.
Please come over. And I was like, okay, and
Strange time.
it was, but again, as I go back and I look at, all of these situations that intertwined with in your life, it's you're raising this beautiful daughter. And Brooke was how old when you lost her?
She's forever 38.
Okay, so 38 years. You had this beautiful, woman. That you were blessed to say, this is my daughter.
She's what made me a mom.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have, it's like I have, have Matt. It's kind of like I've got a piece of her still left. Then you have, when you're thinking of Matt, and having the autism and dealing with. Not that, and again, not that he's difficult, to deal with, however, you're like, okay, now I'm, raising an autistic grandson that we know there's, again, another commonality that we have. We know that there are accommodations, I'll use it that way, that, we put in place for, our children who are, on the spectrum. But then you also have, your husband, who, again, hears that dreaded C word, and, what you, went through, with that. At what point, if at all, do you say, why me? Or has it ever been a why me? I know
Not so much a why me. I think I've always looked at it, why her?
Okay.
Why my daughter? Why my daughter? She did everything right. She tried to do everything right. Why Matt? I worry about him because now I'm the person that's got to worry as I'm older. What happens to him down the line? He no longer has his mother here, who would have taken care of him as long as she could have. And believe me, if I could have had the option to switch places, that she would have been the one here with them, and I would be the one with the C word, I would have done it in a second. I mean, I think we as parents would trade places with our children anytime, anyway. I mean, why Patrick? Why? So I've never looked at it on why me.
Mm-hmm.
Why did Jean have to have cancer? Why did Brooke have to have cancer? Why did Aiden have to die? Why did Patrick have to die? It's never, let's face it, like I said, I would have switched places. And I wonder why God didn't take me instead. And those are like, that's probably the first question I'm going to ask when I get there.
And I was going to ask you, as you're, I remember after Pat, and I think I've shared this, this story on the show, more likely more than once, or back. Oh my gosh, it's hard to believe that we've been doing this show almost 2 years now. Actually, 2 years now. I think it's been 2 years. Almost, we get very close to 2 years now. We've been doing this, and I remember sharing a story where it was the day that I was going to the funeral home. Now, mind you, let's see, if I had the news on a Monday that he was gone, it was, pretty much almost a week before
I couldn't imagine your panic.
I was able to see him. Well, I mean, if you remember, I was at the reunion.
Yes, I know.
And it was let's say our reunion happened it was on a Saturday, I believe. I flew back home that Monday. And it was that Sunday evening before I got on a plane to come back, here, that he was gone. And, I remember, having those similar thoughts in terms of why is this happening? But unfortunately for me, unlike you, I wasn't able to say why, even though I said, why Pat, why Aiden, my journey, and again, on the show, we talk about how each of us navigate through grief and loss a little differently. There was that piece of it that is like, why is it like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, why am I how come I didn't get more time with my grandson? What if I never went to the reunion? That was a thought. What if I never went to I wonder if I hadn't gotten to the reunion.
I had that thought. Have to say that I went, what did I do that God has punished me by taking her?
Yes. Okay. So similar thing. Like, what did I do? So, like you, I mean, I'm a believer as you are. So, dude.
And my faith was questioned. Let me tell you, after Brooke, especially after Brooke passed, because I felt like there were so many prayers said for her to pull through. And not only did I say, she had a lot of people praying for her. And I went, when she was getting worse and worse, I think it was starting to be shaken there, but I didn't want to say it because I was still praying to God, hoping for that miracle. But after she died, I went, is he even up there? Who is he even listening? Or she? I tend to think it's a woman. But, but I went, is anybody up there listening? Maybe this has all been a myth I've been taught. Because there were a lot of prayers. There were a lot of people praying for it. It made no difference. And I still, in some ways, feel like it made no difference. But a little bit differently, like we are given that expiration date maybe before we're ever even born.
Right.
So that we're all on different paths for different reasons, like we're maybe here to learn from our past mistakes, because I don't want to get into reincarnation and all that, but I kind of feel like there's got to be more behind it. Like, I believe now, yes, she's an angel. I know I get signs, like I said, I was telling you about the day I came to Patrick's,
we were talking about that. Yeah. Tell us about, so Laura shared with me, I have her share, actually shared you were on your way
to Patrick's funeral, and that was, Patrick's funeral was the first funeral I had gone to after Brooke passed. So, of course, there were a lot of churned up feelings. There were a lot of emotions.
But I remember what you said to me when I walked in and I saw you sitting there. I remember distinctly what you said to me. You wouldn't be anywhere. Yeah, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. Where else would you be but there?
Yeah,
I appreciate,
And I think I brought you one of my bracelets that I got when I was hiking in Sedona for Brooke. That was, like I said, because she was into Reiki and the stones, and I absolutely love them now because she did. And that was the first thing I just placed. The darker stones tend to be protection stones, and I did place a bracelet around your and said, yeah, I wouldn't be anywhere else. Consider this something from Brooke and I.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the reason I feel like our children are still with us, I think I was telling you, we both are like our Corvettes.
We do.
Mine's getting up there a little in age, so is yours. They both needed a little TLC. But my CD player had stopped working. And yes, I'm old enough that I still enjoy playing a CD in my car. So,
Hey, yeah, I can't say anything. We're the same age.
so I remember being so upset because I had put one of my daughter's CDs in the CD player about a couple months before that and could not get it back out. And it was a CD that my daughter listened to these songs even when she was living with me and very ill. One was Rachel, they were both by Rachel Platten. One was her fight song, the Take Back My Life song. Yeah, she listened to that constantly and it was on that CD. And the other one was Stand By Me. And she had said, Mom, I could picture you probably flash dancing to this song. But it meant so much to her that if your wings are broken, take mine, so yours will open too. Right. And it was, so this CD, I had it in the car, and all of a sudden the CD player went, and I couldn't get it out. Well, the day I was coming to Patrick's funeral, and with all my emotions being so torn up, but wanting to be there to support you, as you had supported me, as I was driving there, I must have hit a bump, something, and all of a sudden the CD player comes on, and there comes Rachel Platten and my daughter's song playing, and I listened to that CD the whole way up to Patrick's funeral. Didn't know if it was if I was gonna ever be able to get it out of the car. Turned the car on, leaving the funeral, and there it was, glaring and playing. Was able to retrieve the CD, but the CD player hasn't worked since.
Wow.
So it worked like she knew I needed to hear that. And as I was coming to support you, she was going to support us too.
And, I took that as a sign as, our children, Brooke was 5 years older than Pat. Pat will be forever 33. Our children didn't know each other when they were here. But I will also take that as a sign as Brooke telling you to tell me, I got him.
Yeah.
I got, you guys got each other down here. I got him up here.
Well, I feel like as we are connected, whether it be to our former classmates who have also lost children, we do get a very special bond because as we're all trying to get through or navigating, we are all here for each other. It doesn't matter if we hung out in the same cliques at school. It doesn't matter even if we were close buddies.
Right.
We all share this common unfortunate bond now.
And I notice as we've gotten older, I feel we're as classmates, we're closer now that, we're all in our 60s. Than we were when we were teens. So Laura, oh my God, this has been such an amazing conversation. Don't go anywhere. But what I wanted to do is.
That's my phone.
Okay. We want to remind you of the phone numbers that. If you find yourself in crisis or you need somebody in crisis, as we remind everybody, please put these numbers in your phone because you never know when you might need them. As you guys know, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline went to a call text 3-digit number 988. There's specific numbers for veterans. There's, specific numbers, for youth. Like I said, you never know when you're going to need these numbers. Next, we want to go to, we always end the show with a positive quote of the day. And when I was looking at this quote, Tammy and I were texting last night, and she was like, it's your turn we take turns doing the quote. And it was this is my turn to do the quote. And so I'm like, let me find something. So, Robert, quote, please. Today, I give thanks to everyone who has been part of my life's journey. And as I was looking at this quote, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what, I couldn't think of a more fitting, quote for today and, the journeys that we have been on. Being able to share, the studio with, someone who, this is a 45-year friendship. Like, oh my gosh. Sharing, and having you come on last minute at that too, and sharing, Brooke's story and Jean's story, and how, this journey that we have been on is so intertwined. And in a lot of ways, it's intertwined in ways that we never wanted them to be. As we close out the show, again, thank you guys for being here. Laura, again, thank you for being here. And as we close out, we always say, there's always hope. Thank you.